Traverse City has come and gone, and the Blue Jackets came out pretty well in the mini tournament. So let's talk about that today on Locked On Blue Jackets.
Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Blue Jackets. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to bring you news, stories, trials, tribulations, recaps, rants, yelling, joy, all of the above, and more about your favorite team and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms and also over on YouTube. I'm trying to get to 250 subscribers by the time the season starts next month, so any little helps. We hit 200 last week and we're already almost at 210, so we are, I guess, 20% of the way to my goal, and shout out to all of the people that already have subscribed. I appreciate all of you. Today's episode, we're going to talk about Traverse City. We're going to talk about prospects because the Blue Jacket prospects had a pretty good showing, I think. So we're going to talk about who impressed, who maybe needed to do a little bit more work, and maybe some unsung heroes of the tournament as well. So I guess let's start off with just a quick recap of how the tournament went. The Blue Jackets, or the Baby Jackets, played 3 games. They played against the St. Louis Blues, which they won 6-1, I believe. They lost to the Baby Detroit Red Wings, and then they beat the Baby Maple Leafs 3-2 in overtime yesterday afternoon. So they went 2-1 on the. It's a weird thing to call it a tournament because for me, a tournament implies that there's like a winner and a cup handed out at the end, and that doesn't seem to be how what's going on right now. So, Blue Jackets went 2-1 and had some really good performances, mostly from guys that you would expect. So Kent Johnson, for example, let's start talking about him because he was, I think, one of the 2 best players for the Blue Jackets in this tournament. I have another guy that I'm going to talk about in a minute that I mentioned briefly on today's episode of Locked On NHL, but let's start off talking about Kent Johnson. 6 points, he had 2 goals, 4 assists in 3 games, which I think honestly is what a lot of people were expecting. He's had a big year. He's had a big 2022 so far. Attempt number 1 at the World Juniors. College made it almost to the Frozen Four final, played in the Olympics, played in the World Championships for Canada, played in the second attempt of the World Juniors, won a gold medal. Prospect camp, or development camp, I guess, the rookie tournament, and he's going to be making his training camp debut, I guess, for the Blue Jackets as of next week. So it's all very, very exciting. Kent Johnson's played a lot of hockey, but I thought he looked really good out there. I kind of have been tweeting on and off about the whole tournament. Kent Johnson, I think there are still some steps that he needs to take. I don't think he has. Well, obviously, he hasn't even almost reached his potential. He's 19 years old. But I really, really liked his game, and I think what's really interesting about Kent Johnson is, and I mentioned this on Twitter, the foot speed is not necessarily all the way there yet, and I think the footwork, the skating, definitely needs a little bit of work. But, and this is something that kind of a lot of prospect guys have said, his hands are so good and his passing is so good and his situational awareness, I think, is so good that it almost makes up for the weakness in the lower half of his body, because I feel like there were at least 5 or 6 times a game where he would have the puck and I would be like, oh, he's going to lose this. And then suddenly he does some weird stick handling thing and somehow he comes away with the puck. Scored 2 goals, 1 against the Red Wings and 1 against the Baby St. Louis Blues. And I think he just had a really, really good tournament. But I mean, we're not looking at Ken Johnson as a goal scorer, I don't think. I think he is a playmaker. And I really liked how he played. I thought his pass to Marchenko for the game-winning goal against the Leafs was phenomenal. The pass to Jordan Demai that opened the scoring as well against the St. Louis Blues was fantastic. Like, just he makes these incredible passes like it's nothing. And I'm super, super excited to see how he does after an entire summer of preparing to be in the NHL. Because I think a lot of people were kind of disappointed with his NHL debut, the 8 games or whatever that he played last season. I'm expecting big, exciting things from training camp. And the other thing about Kent Johnson as well is he played center in this tournament. He played wing most of the 8 games that he was with the Blue Jackets for last season. He played wing for Canada, and he played wing for basically his entire college career. He played on Matty Beniers' wing. So he has not played at center a lot, but I thought he held his own pretty well. I really liked, like I said, I really liked all of his game. I think there's definitely things to work on, and I think it'll be interesting to see how he looks against the rest of the team in training camp. You know, the guys that have been in the NHL. But I'm I'm super excited about Kent Johnson. He's an exciting player. Is he the best player on the team? Is he the best prospect that the Blue Jackets have? Maybe not, but I think he might be the most exciting. So 2 thumbs up to Kent Johnson. In a minute, we're going to talk about Jet Greaves, who was my other choice for uh, best player of the tournament for the Blue Jackets. But first, I've got to tell you all about BetOnline, because BetOnline is your number one source for all your pro and college football betting needs and sports information this season. You can find all the latest football league developments, game matchups, news, podcasts, including the opening week's games. They kicked off a couple of weeks ago. Football is in full swing. The NHL is going to be back real soon. So if you want to put money on, hey, here's one. Put money on Kent Johnson winning the Calder. I think that could be a really fun bet. That's what I'm going to be putting my money on. And BetOnline is also your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. The fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite sports and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, golf, football, basketball, hockey, any sport that you could think of. BetOnline probably has the odds and props for that. So head to the website today. That is betonline.net, or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action, because BetOnline is where the game starts. So let's talk Jet Greaves, who was my other choice for best player for the Blue Jackets at this tournament, because Jet Greaves he only played a game and a half, but I thought he was phenomenal against the Blues. Didn't play against the Red Wings, but I thought Pavel Kayan, or Chayan, I believe it's pronounced, played okay against the Red Wings. I thought he was very good against the Maple Leafs. I thought Jet Greaves was also very good against the Maple Leafs. Jet Greaves is another guy that's had a really kind of interesting journey this year. Went to the last Traverse City as basically a free agent signing. He did his time in the OHL, didn't play last season because of the COVID, whatever. And then came in, signed an AHL 2-way deal with the ECHL. I was like, okay, he's probably going to spend most of the season with Kalamazoo. And then the goalie situation with the Blue Jackets, losing Tarasov for most of the season. And then, Merzlikins was injured or ill. Korpisalo was injured or ill. On the back of that, Jet Greaves ended up spending a bunch of time. He spent more time in the AHL than he did in the ECHL, actually. So it's a pretty good story. He signed his ELC on the back of all of this, and he turned up to Traverse City this year, and I thought played really well. Just calm, collected. Not the biggest guy in the world. I think he's only 6 foot, 6'1". And I love when goalies are not 6 foot a million. And yeah, he's another guy that I'm really excited to kind of keep an eye on, to watch with the Monsters this year. I imagine it's going to be him and Tarasov, maybe even splitting the net 50-50. I'd like to see Tarasov get a bulk of the start, but I mean, I think Jet Greaves is good enough and has enough promise to push Tarasov to be better, and maybe, not challenge him for that starting spot, but I think definitely make Tarasov aware that, oh, okay, this is not necessarily a given that he's going to start, 2/3 of the season. So that's my other pick. I think we've got to talk about Kirill Marchenko, who had three goals in 3 games, including that overtime winner. He is a guy that I think is just going to be really, really fun to watch this season. He had some good chemistry with Ken Johnson. That could be a fun third line of, I don't know, put Marchenko and Chinikov on Ken Johnson's wings on that third line and just really let them go for it. I think that will be really fun. And then another guy that I wanted to mention as having a really good tournament, Jordan Dumais had, I believe, 4 or 5 points in 3 games. He was drafted in the 3rd round. He led the QMJHL. He tied for the lead in assists for the QMJHL this season. I believe he led the Q in scoring. And he dropped all the way to the 3rd round because he's 5'8", and I was like, okay, well, I see where we've seen this before. Short players drop in the draft. It's what it is. Opened the scoring against the Blues, scored again like 3 minutes later to make it 2-0, and then scored the game-tying goal against the Maple Leafs to force overtime. So there's 3 big goals. He's fast. I think a lot of the criticism for Dumais was his skating speed, but he looked really good out there. I thought he played really well with Del Belbaluz. He spent some time on that top line with Marchenko and Johnson occasionally, got some power play time. Just really, really impressed with Dumais. And he's, again, I assume he's going to go back to juniors this season. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on him in the queue, and we'll see what happens, because he is a guy that I think it could be kind of a slow burn prospect. But I mean, Johnny Gaudreau dropped to the 4th round because of his size, and look where he is now. He scored 115 points last season, so he could be another kind of, maybe not a Johnny Gaudreau level player, but definitely I think a player that could make some waves, could be one of the steals of the draft when all is said and done. In a minute, we are going to just finish up by talking about a couple of guys that, again, maybe kind of unexpectedly good. I want to talk about David Jiricek, who maybe had the biggest hype coming into this tournament for the Blue Jackets, and also Denton Matajak. And I think those 2 players have kind of flipped in their expectations for what I was expecting from them from this tournament. So we're going to talk about those guys in just a minute, next on Locked On Blue Jackets. So I think, like everyone, I was expecting David Jiricek to kind of come out of this rookie tournament and just wow everyone. And he was not as dominant as I was expecting. I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing. I think he's basically had reconstructive knee surgery, 7 months ago, 8 months ago. So, he's clearly not at 100% yet. I wasn't expecting him to go out there and just, throw everything around. I thought he had good moments. I thought the game against the Leafs was his best game. Scored the opening goal and was just a really solid presence. But I think he definitely has some work to do. I still think he's NHL ready, but I also don't know if he's 100% physically, and I think maybe some time in the AHL to get up to speed could not be the worst thing for David Jiricek. I know I feel like I'm backtracking everything I've said about David Jiricek all season, or all summer, but he's good. He's going to be good. I'm not sure if he's physically 100% there yet. So maybe it's best to kind of temper expectations with Jiricek. Don't get too hyped up. On the flip side, I want to talk about his defensive partner for this tournament, Denton Matajak, who very quietly had a really, really good tournament, I think. He didn't appear on the score sheet very much, but I thought his skating is just phenomenal. Just world better than I was expecting, honestly. And I know that he is, known as a good skater, but I thought he was maybe the best skater on the team. He played a lot of minutes, played them well. He was a guy that he kind of has that Seth Jones type game, I think, where you only really notice him if something bad is happening. And I didn't notice a lot of bad things happening with him. It was really only I was like, oh, that was a really good defensive play. Oh, Denton Matajak. So that was a really fun pairing to watch. Honestly, I was impressed with both of them. I know I feel like I've just said that David Jiricek wasn't that impressive, but I think again I was expecting a lot from him. He didn't necessarily deliver a lot, but I think he still had a good tournament. Again, I think his best game was the Maple Leafs, but I think Mateychuk was quietly very good for the entire tournament. And it could make for an interesting training camp. Again, I'm really excited to see what Mateychuk does when he gets on the ice with the big boys. It's really easy to watch these rookie tournaments and be like, "Oh, this kid is so good. This kid is going to fly through the NHL." Because at the end of the day, they're playing against kids their own age. 20. I think the oldest player is 22 or 23. So it's really easy to kind of look and be like, hey, this kid's real good, but he's playing against 18-year-olds, And so I'll be really interested to see. I think Johnson is going to be fine, but I'm really interested in specifically Jiricek and Mateychuk. Uh, Probably more Mateychuk than Jiricek because I feel like Jiricek has been playing with men for a while now. Mateychuk has been playing over in the WHL, so I'm excited to see what he does when he's on the ice with, pros essentially. So those are the guys that kind of impressed me through training camp, or not training camp, excuse me, Traverse City, or guys that I thought maybe, hey, we wanted a little bit more from, but did not necessarily have a bad tournament. Another guy that I just wanted to mention briefly, Roman Ishan really kind of was a gem to find for the Monsters last season. Came straight out of college. Turned up at the Traverse City tournament, and again, I think quietly had a really good tournament. Again, I think his game against the Maple Leafs was his best game of the tournament, and just he's a guy that again I think I'm going to keep an eye on. I don't necessarily know that he's going to make it to the Blue Jackets this season or ever, but he's a guy that I think could turn into a really good player for the Monsters, and that's not nothing. So overall, really, really happy with how this tournament went. Really, really happy with the Baby Jackets. Super, super excited for training camp to start now and to, really get into it, get the big boys on the ice, get the preseason started. Let's get the NHL rolling. And so this week we're going to be kind of talking about previewing the season. I guess we're going to be looking at line combinations. We're going to be talking to some people, which is going to be tomorrow's episode. Actually, this is all I have for you today, but in tomorrow's episode, I'm sitting down later today with Jeff Svoboda, who is at Jackets Insider on Twitter. He's the Jackets beat reporter for the NHL, essentially. He's been on the show for the last 2 off seasons and always has some really, really great things to say, some really great insights, and some really fun stories to tell. So we're gonna talk to Jeff about all of those things. We're going to talk about rookie tournament. We're going to talk about the offseason the Blue Jackets had, what he's excited for the season, his expectations of this group, all of these things. So if you have any questions for Jeff, feel free to, again, at me on Twitter, LO_Blue Jackets or _Jacob Foster, JAKOBFOSTER. That's where you can find me on Twitter. You can email me at lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com with questions or, comments, criticisms, anything like that. Or you can just comment on this YouTube video with your questions for Jeff, and I will get through as many as I can. I have some questions that I want to ask him, but if you have any kind of burning questions that you want to know about kind of the Blue Jackets in general, then Jeff is the guy to ask. So stick him in the YouTube comments if you have questions. And like I said, that's kind of all I've got for you today. Locked on Blue Jackets is going back to 5 days a week now. So we're going to be doing Monday to Friday episodes instead of 3 days a week, which I'm super excited for because it means that the season's on the way back. So that is what is coming up. Lots of content, lots of previews, and I believe the preseason starts in like a week or a week and a half. So before you know it, we're going to be doing game recaps. We're going to be looking at game previews. We're going to be looking at other teams. It's going to be real exciting. I'm real excited to start the season. It's been a fast off season, but it's also been a long off season, if you know what I mean. So I'm super excited to see the Blue Jackets back playing hockey again, even if it is only a rookie tournament. I really enjoyed this weekend. It was nice to watch the baby Blue Jackets play, and get hyped for the future this season and beyond. So once again, I've been Jay Foster. You can find me on Twitter at the URL that is right here on the screen. You can find Locked on Blue Jackets at LO_Blue Jackets. Thank you once again for making this your first listen of the day every day. Locked on Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms, and we're also over on YouTube. Like I mentioned at the start of the episode, we're trying to hit 250 subscribers by the start of the regular season, which I believe is October 8th. So we've got like 3 weeks to go. I believe in us. But if you are not subscribed, then feel free to hit the subscribe button over there. It helps me out. It helps you out. You get notifications whenever the new episodes go up. And if there are any live episodes happening, then you get notifications for that as well. So, yeah, just thanks everyone for listening. This off season, we are shifting back into preseason and regular season mode. Let's have fun. I'm excited, so hopefully you are as well. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking to Jeff Svoboda. So until then, make sure you stay locked on.